As you've heard by now, conference realignment is running rampant, but Conference USA is not sitting by the sideline waiting to be picked off. They've come forward with an aggressive, creative offer to the American to realign the two conferences into two new regional conferences, but the American isn't having it. Anyway, let's jump into it. So this news actually came out a couple days ago, and somehow I just stumbled upon it today. So I wanted to get a quick video out there looking at what this proposal is, what these two new conferences would look like, and what the likely outcome is going to be. The first article I read was on si.com, and I'll put a link to both the articles into the comments below. The proposal originating from Conference USA Commissioner Judy McLeod, sorry if I got that wrong, would require the conferences to remake themselves based on geography, creating two new leagues under different names. Conference USA presidents met Monday to approve the decision to reach out to the AAC, seen as the next step in what's been a weeks-long process of drafting reorganization models. It continues, Conference USA's regionalization model would serve as an alternative option to the domino effect of realignment, potentially slowing any future movement on the G5 level. However, most within the college sports industry believe it to be a long shot. AAC Commissioner Mike Oresco has publicly spoken against any type of merger plan. When you look at the difference in TV revenue that the conferences bring in, you can see why the AAC is not interested. They bring in about $6 million annually, whereas the Sunbelt and Conference USA are both at about $500,000, which is a huge difference. And if they were to realign, they would most likely lose their elevated status as one of the top programs or conferences rather of the group of five, or a P6 program as they've dubbed themselves. And so doing that would really knock them down a notch. But it makes sense for Conference USA. Yes, it's true. It would be more regional. You could have more rivalries. It would be cheaper for travel. But I think what they're really trying to do is preemptively avoid what seems to be inevitable, which will be the AAC robbing Conference USA of a bunch of its top programs, and then they're going to have to go to the Sun Belt, or maybe they get picked off by the Sun Belt, and eventually enough dominoes are going to fall, and one of these conferences is going to become irrelevant and maybe dissolve. What I think is interesting is that the Sun Belt is also not interested in this realignment proposal. The other article I read is on what I believe is the SMU student newspaper. What I think was really interesting in this article is it talked about Oresco, the AAC commissioner, talking about a new model. It says, instead of bringing in established schools, mostly because there aren't very many established schools left, he believes the conference can survive by bringing in lesser schools and raising their profile once they're in the conference. Of course, he has to say this because that's kind of the position they're in, but that does say a little something about the mindset perhaps of the programs they're looking at. So let's go back to my trusty map to look at what these two new conferences would look like under this Conference USA proposal. So first, for context, here's Conference USA and here's the American. And here is Conference USA's proposal for the merger. On the right in the blue, you see that would be the new American conference but renamed, and on the left in the light red or pink would be the new Conference USA. So as you can see, much more geographically consolidated, and makes a lot more sense. So a couple interesting things jumped out to me about this map. First of all, Navy was not included in this new American conference, but yet Wichita State was included in the new Conference USA. Secondly, the new American only has 10 members, whereas the new Conference USA has 12. Now this would give the American opportunity to go find a couple more programs, most likely from the Sun Belt, maybe even the MAC, to round their conference out. But I just think it's interesting that Navy wasn't in there, because if it's Navy, then you only have to go find one more. And the Sun Belt, which is already only at 10 members for football, has some schools that would be, prime position to get picked off by this theoretical new American conference. So that about sums up Conference USA's proposal. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I would love to see something really creative and out of the box actually go forward, but I think what we'll most likely see is more of the same. One conference going and picking off the conference below it, or getting picked off some more and dissolving completely. So I think we're going to see more of that from the American. What I think is interesting, though, is that they've really left the door open for them who they could go after. They're not necessarily going to go after the biggest name brands. They might be able to pick some smaller schools that are in a position to have a lot of success. So does that mean that they want to go after something like a Coastal Carolina? We just don't know, because Mike Oresco's really kept things close to the vest. But one thing that he's been consistent about is saying that he hopes to get this resolved soon. And so I wouldn't be surprised within another month or so if we get the answers to a lot of these questions. We have another video where we went into detail on who we think some of those potential candidates for the AAC could be, and also what we think is going to happen with the Mountain West. So please check those out. Also, let us know in this what you think of the proposal from Conference USA. Would you like to see it happen, or would you like to see American kind of pick off some remaining schools? And don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.